और हम देखते हैं कि हिस्ट्री में हमारे जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोग हैं वो कहाँ से आए। मैं अभी आपको दिखाता हूँ। मैं न्यूलिथिक एज की बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ। 1500 BC, दैट मीन्स 3500 पहले, 100 साल, 3500 साल पहले ये था हमारा क्रॉस कनेक्ट। जो लोग ऊपर से नीचे आए हैं, ये आपको दिखाएंगे कि हमारे जो खासीज 1000 BC में म्यांमार से माइग्रेट करके हमारे नॉर्थ ईस्ट में आए। फिर हमारे जो ट्रेडर्स थे, इंडियन ट्रेडर्स साउथ ईस्ट एशिया से टू बर्मा, मूव्ड इन द 2nd century BC. What did they carry with them? They carried Buddhism, goods, India's culture. And that is how the culture of India and Buddhism spread from India to Myanmar and to the rest of the ASEAN countries. But what was important? And as it spread, what did it take with them? It took our own people. So the cross connect is that as people of Myanmar spread across into India or migrated into India, Indian traders, Indian people also carried our message across to Myanmar and to the rest of the ASEAN countries, and that is how we are connected. 630 AD में a very famous Chinese traveler called Hyun traveled to Kamrup, which is now Assam, from China in 630 AD. The Ahoms, which are a part of Assam today, very important part, arrived in northeast India from Upper Burma, Yunnan border, in the 13th century, followed by the Khamtis and the Kamyangs. Ayutthaya, the ancient capital of Thailand, in 13th century AD was named after Ayodhya under the influence of Indian settlers. The Mughals invaded the Ahom kingdom from 13th century onwards, but could capture areas only till Guwahati in the 16th century. That means for 3 centuries, the Ahoms kept the Mughals at bay. They did not allow the Mughals to capture. The Nagas, the Kukis, the Mizos, the Lushais came from Upper Burma and Yunnan. The Assamese slaves were brought in by the Kachins, settled in the 17th century. After the British annexation of Burma in 1885, the people of northeast India also settled in Burma and vice versa. This is the Burmese Empire, 1822. Just see how it spread. The Burmese Empire had spread right across into India, into what is today's India. Golpara, just north of Golpara, looking at Bhutan, the Khasi Hills, were all a part of the Burmese Empire. After the First Anglo-Burma War, 1824 to 26, 1852-53, Third War, 1885, this is how the Burmese Empire was defeated and then completely taken over by the British by 1885. ये देखिए आप. So when we talk of historical perspective, we must be very, very clear that India and Burma are connected to each other. So over to you.
Yeah, you can change the slide whichever way you want.
Okay.
There's at the bottom you'll find slide with the arrow. You can do that.
बिल्कुल sir. Okay. So now when we have this kind of cross connect, sir, what is the historical perspective? That is important for us to know. When we are clear that India is connected to the tribes of Burma, and the tribes of Burma have immigrated into India, what should also be clear is that you cannot keep the Northeast away from Burma, because all the tribes of Burma, of India, of the Northeast of India, actually see their background for Burma. So if you say that there is a coup in Burma as there is, but we wanted to seal our borders. The border sealing could not be done. The reason is that all the people of Burma, all the people surrounding the borders between India and Burma, owe their background, owe their origin to some place in Burma close to the border. So this is important because any security problem that happens in Burma will have its effect in Northeast India. And that's the reason why we must always make sure that Burma must always be with us. The people of Myanmar and India are two brothers. We have no option but to do and be with each other. This, when you trace this history backwards, sir, you realize how important this is. We have a border with Burma that is 1776 kilometers long, 1776 kilometers, of which 145 to 154 kilometers is undemarcated. Why? Because Burma refused to demarcate that part north, which is in northern Arunachal Pradesh, because they said till the tri-junction, that is the tri-junction between Myanmar, India, and Tibet, because they said that you first sort out the problem with China, then we will demarcate the problem between us and you in these 154 kilometers. And this is the reason why anything that happens in that tri-junction, anything that happens in Burma, any problem that happens anywhere will result in the people of Burma moving into India, or those tribes moving into India, or vice versa. It also means that the weapons, the narcotics come along with the people. When we talk of security in the Northeast, we must understand that all the insurgency groups fighting the the military government in Burma are also being helped out by the people in India. We may not like it, but there is nothing we can do. The reason is that the 1776 kilometers, though demarcated, is does not have any kind of fence. And also legally, 16 kilometers on either side has been declared as a free move regime. That means people living in the villages of 16 kilometers between both sides are allowed to carry headloads and to trade with each other. This again changes quite a few situations. When you have 16 kilometers, that means you can't have a fence. That means the people cannot be policed. And because the people of Myanmar, their knowledge of people living in those 16 kilometers is unknown to us, you can't stop them from coming here. So that's the first issue when we deal with Burma. The second is, as you said, there's a king and a queen. The queen is Aung San Suu Kyi, and the king is the chief of the Burmese National Army, the Tatmadaw, or as you call the Myanmar National Army. And the two don't get along. The chief of the Tatmadaw does not agree that the queen needs to be the ruler. And the queen, because she is the daughter of General Neven, will not bow down to the chief of the Tatmadaw. This will be a perennial problem till one destroys the other. So this is the second conundrum. The first is that they exist. Second, they don't like each other. Third, whatever happens, one has to fall for the second one to have to rise. That means you can't have peace. The Tatmadaw or the Burmese National Army or the Myanmar National Army is the ruler today. 5 years ago or 3 years ago, it was Aung San Suu Kyi. Even when she was the prime minister, the home minister, the defense minister, and the finance minister were generals of the Tatmadaw, power that they never allowed Aung San Suu Kyi to have. The fourth issue is that 60% of Myanmar is ruled by insurgent groups. Some who owe allegiance to the Tatmadaw, some who are fighting the Tatmadaw. The Arakan Army, the Arakan Liberation Army, which is linked to us through Mizoram, is fighting the Tatmadaw. So they often come in through the unmanned places of the Indo-Myanmar border and try and make their camps inside India. These camps are repeatedly raided by the Assam Rifles, who is now trying its best to extend its posts across the 1760 kilometers that exists. But with 21 odd battalions holding the Indo-Myanmar border with the rest of the 25 battalions involved in counterinsurgency, it means that each battalion is actually trying to police a gap of 100 kilometers, which is almost impossible. Why? Because the jungles are so bad, the roads are so bad, the issues are so bad. So these are the reasons why, sir, these are the main issues what prevent us from trying to bring peace and from trying to make sure that we cut ourselves off from Myanmar, which neither of which we can do. And therefore, I have always said, sir, that the government of India must be very, very practical. There is a power dispute in Myanmar. It is not our dispute. This dispute will continue. But we should deal with the government of the day. It doesn't matter who it is. Because a lot of our security issues are based out of out of Burma or out of Myanmar. 55 camps. I wonder how many of our viewers are aware that the Indian insurgent groups have 55 plus camps inside Myanmar. And the main insurgent groups are the NSCN-IM, the NSCN Khaplang or the NSCN K group, the PLA, and a host of other Kuki insurgent groups and Manipur Maiti insurgent groups. Along with it, any small insurgent group that has a problem merely crosses into Myanmar and establishes a camp there. And if they are beyond the 30 or 40 kilometer line from the border, they are safe because we can't launch operations inside 40 kilometers. When you look at these issues, sir, and I have gone to Myanmar many times, I have discussed these issues, the security issues with the Tatmadaw. They always say that you give us proof. And no matter how much proof you give them, they are unable to carry out operations against the Tatmadaw. So Burma becomes more and more important because we are trying to develop the Northeast in two ways, sir. One is we are trying to bring up the people of the Northeast. Secondly, we're trying to push in infrastructure, introduce manufacturing, introduce businesses, bring up educational institutions. But our problem is that without the security, inherent security to all these institutions, none of these institutions will survive in the Northeast. Until we get peace. It's a conundrum, sir. You have to have peace with the Naga groups. You have to sign a final agreement with the Naga groups. You have to sign an agreement with the Tatmadaw. You have to police your border in such a way that you're able to intercept each and every movement inside. You have to prevent illegal smuggling. You have to prevent illegal gun running. and you have to secure your northeast. Now let me show you, sir. If you just go to the images of the Indo-Myanmar border, sir.
This is slide. Let me Okay, I'll just add to the stream. You tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to the diverse northeast, this is a list, a slide of the tribes that are there in the
Wait,
northeast.
wait, wait. I can't see this list. I can
Uh,
only go slide by slide. Okay,
Nine,
it's
slide 9.
slide 9 is okay. This one, yeah.
Ah. Now, if you see, sir, this is the population of our northeast. Arunachal, all the tribes of Arunachal Pradesh, 99% of the tribes in Assam, all the tribes in Meghalaya, all the tribes in Nagaland, Manipur, and Mizoram, all have their origin inside from Myanmar. And that is why it is so important, sir. So, when we talk of peace, sir, there has to be peace in three ways. You have to have peace along this border. That means you have to be capable of policing the Indo Myanmar border. That's the first thing. Secondly, you and the government of Myanmar, whoever it is, India and the government of Myanmar, have to be permanent friends, not permanent adversaries. Thirdly, the people of the Northeast have to understand and have to have their stake in the economic development of India, because it is only the people who can stop this infiltration from Myanmar. Thirdly, sir, we did take our mind back to the Second World War. You and me have both studied uh,
Yeah,
the the Burma
complete
campaign.
Burma campaign, yes.
When you see and when you trace out, sir, how the Japanese forces entered India from China and came to Manipur and finally came down to Kohima, you realize how easy it is for the Chinese forces to do similarly. The route is very clearly marked. If the Japanese in 1942, 43, 44, 45 could enter India with the resources of that time, you can imagine what the PLA can do today. That means not only are you securing the Arunachal Pradesh border or the Ladakh border, you also have to secure this border. This becomes equally important, which is why anything that happens in Myanmar will continue to affect us. Now, what is happening in Myanmar? In 1920, in 2021, the Tatmadaw again took over, deposed Aung San Suu Kyi, and took over the government. A week back, the Tatmadaw has bombed using airplanes a village in the Sagaing district and killed over 100 people. The BBC talks of 170 dead. That means whatever little chance there was of any kind of reconciliation between the Queen and the King, that chance is more or less gone.
Gone.
More or less gone. The Queen is in jail. The fourth part is that the Tatmadaw now is preparing for an election sometime in November, December. The electoral lists are being made, the electoral rolls are being made. He might be planning a party of the Tatmadaw. And if they ban everybody else, then they get legitimacy to the power that is there. And if that happens, India must deal with the government of the day there, which is we cannot be talking of democracy, we cannot be talking of human rights, cannot be talking of all this when the security, the safety, the economic well-being of the entire Northeast is dependent on on Myanmar. So not only do we have a China problem, We have a people's problem. We tried to tell the government of Meghalaya that they should not permit the refugees to come in from on their borders. I remember the chief minister of Meghalaya telling me, he says, General, our background is from there. How can we not allow our brothers and sisters to come in and stay with us? So if the people are willing to support them, then we can't stop them. Which is why this movement to secure our Northeast can only come from the people of that place. So these are the issues that I wanted to highlight, sir, and we can go ahead with any other issue you want.
या आई वुड आपने जो बताया है वो बहुत अहम चीज बताए हैं आपने कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट का सिक्योरिटी जो है वो हमारे लोगों के ऊपर निर्भर है। जब तक
Absolutely.
हमारे लोग सिक्योर नहीं है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट का सिक्योरिटी लड़खड़ाता रहेगा। और हमारा जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोग हैं उनके हिस्टोरिक संबंध है, सिविलाइजेशनल संबंध है जो म्यांमार से हैं, और इनका जो आना जाना अक्रॉस द बॉर्डर नॉर्मल लगा रहता है। और जितने हमारे इंसर्जेंट ग्रुप्स हैं उनके वहाँ कैंप्स हैं, और इसीलिए अगर कोई इंसर्जेंट ग्रुप यहाँ हो गया शुरू तो छठ से लेकर एक छोटा सा कैंप वहां बना लेता है और वहां जाके बस लेता है और वहां से लेकर यहाँ आके प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट करता है।
करेक्ट,
राइट। तो ये हमारा हिस्टोरिक
और
प्रॉब्लम है।
और ऑल्सो चाइना का जो मूवमेंट है,
नहीं, आता हूँ चाइना के ऊपर। तो ये हमारा हिस्टोरिक प्रॉब्लम है, और जब भी हमारा नॉर्थ ईस्ट में प्रॉब्लम होता है तो आप देखेंगे कि वहां के कैंप बढ़ जाते हैं और आना जाना क्रॉस बॉर्डर मूवमेंट बढ़ता रहता है। और जिस इलाके में डेवलपमेंट ज्यादा हो गया और एजुकेशन ज्यादा हो गया और लोग का मेल मिलाप इंडियन गवर्नमेंट से और सब ज्यादा हो गया, तो वहां से ये इंसर्जेंसी कम होता गया है। अगर मैं अपना पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस लूं तो मेरा भी वहाँ 2-3 पोस्टिंग हो चुका है और मैं वहाँ एक ब्रिगेड कमांडर भी किया हूँ ऑन ग्राउंड। तो जो शौकीन साहब बोल रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल सही बोल रहे हैं। वहाँ का जंगल इतने घने हैं कि आप अगर उस घने जंगल में घुस जाओ तो 100 मीटर के दूर में क्या हो रहा है आपको पता ही नहीं चलता। ये जो 20-21 बटालियन जो ओवर 2-1,500 किलोमीटर जो फैले हुए हैं असम राइफल के, वो एक आदमी इधर से निकल जाता है उसके पीछे से एक और टोली निकल आती है। तो इतना पोरस है बॉर्डर। राइट। इस अवस्था में जो भी गतिविधियां म्यांमार के अंदर हो रहे हैं उसका असर हमारे तीनों पूर्वोत्तर राज्य यानी कि मिजोरम सबसे नीचे, उसके ऊपर मणिपुर और उसके बाद नागालैंड और सबसे ऊपर अरुणाचल के ऊपर भी असर होगा और असर हो रहा था और होता ही रहेगा जब तक हम अपने लोगों को नहीं संभाल सकते और हमारा लोगों की गतिविधियां को हम कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते और उनका जो इंसर्जेंट ग्रुप्स के साथ हम तालमेल नहीं रखते और ये सीज फायर नहीं साइन करते। राइट। रही बात म्यांमार की, म्यांमार में जैसे मैंने पहला स्लाइड दिखाया, एक राजा है एक रानी है, वो दोनों एक दूसरे से जुड़ते नहीं है, एक दूसरे से अगेंस्ट हैं और विरोध हैं और एक दूसरे के मारने पे तुले पड़े हैं। राजा जो है वो आर्मी का है, वो उसका बोलबाला ज्यादा है, उसने रानी को पकड़ के अंदर कर दिया और रानी का जो फौज है वो बाहर से देश से पैसा ले रहा है और वहाँ एक सिविल वॉर सा चल रहा है और इस सिविल वॉर में पूरा एयरफोर्स भी इस्तेमाल हो रहा है और वहाँ प्रॉब्लम हो रहे हैं। वहाँ प्रॉब्लम क्यों हो रहे हैं? तो उनके लोग हमारे यहाँ आ रहे हैं, हमारे यहाँ आएंगे और इनका शरण मिलेगा। हमारा हम चाहे ना चाहे इनको शरण यहाँ मिलेगा क्योंकि हमारे ये पूरा ट्राइबल लॉयल्टी ये बोलता है कि अगर आपका भाई है उसको कोई प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है तो उसको शरण देना अनिवार्य है। और आपको पता होना चाहिए इस इलाके में, इन इलाकों में, पूर्वोत्तर इलाके कहीं भी आप चले जाओ, ट्राइबल लॉयल्टीज आर फार हायर देन नेशनल लॉयल्टीज। ट्राइब का जो सोच विचार है वो है कि भाई ट्राइब पहले बाकी सब कुछ बाद में, तो देश वगैरह तो बाद में है। जब तक हम ये इसमें अगर उलटफेर नहीं हो सकता तो हमारा सिक्योरिटी भी कम ही होगा। नेक्स्ट पॉइंट ये है कि हमें पता होना चाहिए कि म्यांमार के बगल में नॉर्थ में चाइना के साथ भी बड़ा बॉर्डर है, और चाइना के पार रुली नामक एक शहर है, उनका बॉर्डर टाउन, वो रुली और उसके इर्द गिर्द जो रहते हैं वहां, और म्यांमार में जो रहते हैं वो भी हमारे तरह ट्राइबल क्या लिंकेजेस हैं उनके भी, वहां भी आना जाना कॉमन है। और सो वहां से भी प्रॉब्लम्स हिस्टोरिकली म्यांमार में हुए हैं। राइट, लास्ट पॉइंट उन्होंने जो बताया है कि ये देखिए, दूसरा विश्व युद्ध के टाइम जापानियों ने ये म्यांमार के थ्रू यांगोन और थ्रू कुनमिंग के रास्ते से, ये एक मैप आपको दिखाता हूं, ये अहम मैप है। राइट, अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये इलाका है मैंडले बीच में, ये म्यांमार के ऊपर मैंडले है। वो एक किताब है रोड पास्ट मैंडले बाय जॉन मास्टर्स, अगर आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको पता होगा कि ये दूसरे विश्व युद्ध में क्या हुआ था। लोग यहाँ इसके मैंडले के थ्रू यहाँ जिस तरीके से मैंने एरो दिखाया उस साइड से आए और कोहिमा तक आए। कोहिमा लास्ट था, जापानीज जहां आए थे, हमने उनको लड़के उनको
डिफीट
हराया
करा।
और वापस डिफीट किया और वापस भेज दिया। इसमें बहुत हमारा खुद का हिस्ट्री है और खुद का सीख है, जहां बैटल ऑफ बॉक्सेस, एडमंड बॉक्सेस वगैरह वगैरह हुआ है, वो उसमें हम नहीं पढ़ेंगे। पर अगर दूसरा विश्व युद्ध के टाइम में अगर जापानीज ऐसे आ सकते थे, तो आज के दिन चाइना भी आ सकता है, क्योंकि इनका चाइना म्यांमार इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर उसी रास्ते से चलता है जहां जापानीज उस दूसरे विश्व युद्ध में यहाँ आए हैं। तो कहने का ओवरऑल तात्पर्य ये है कि जब तक म्यांमार में अस्थिरता है, इंडिया में अस्थिरता होगा। जब तक म्यांमार में अस्थिरता है और हमारे साथ ताल्लुक म्यांमार के साथ ठीक नहीं है, तो चाइना का जो खतरा है हमारे ऊपर बढ़ता जाएगा। तो इसका अनिवार्य ये है जो शौकीन साहब ने बताया कि हमें जो भी सत्ता में है म्यांमार के अंदर उसके साथ बना रहना पड़ेगा। हमारे पास कोई दो और रास्ता नहीं है। ये अच्छी बात है बोलना कि हमें क्या डेमोक्रेसी चाहिए वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह, पर रियल पॉलिटिक में अगर हम देखेंगे तो हमें जो भी सत्ता में है, चाहे वो तात्मदाव सत्ता में हो या कोई और पार्टी, जैसे अभी ऑंग सान सू की का नेशनल डेमोक्रेटिक लीग का पार्टी सत्ता में है, उनके साथ हमें बात करना पड़ेगा। पर बेसिक चीज ये है कि म्यांमार जो है एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट जगह है, राइट, हमारे पूरे सिक्योरिटी के सिस्टम में। राइट, इसको बताने के बाद मैं एक चीज बताना चाहता हूं। सब लोग सोचते हैं कि चाइना के थ्रू, अब चाइना जो है म्यांमार के थ्रू आके जिस तरीके से मैंने एक वो एरो दिखा दिया, अटैक करेगा एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, ये भी थोड़ा ख्वाब है। ये भी ख्वाब इसीलिए है, जिस तरीके से हम सोचते हैं कि म्यांमार एक बहुत प्रॉब्लम स्टेट है और एक टफ स्टेट टू डील विद है, चाइना वाले भी यही सोचते हैं। उतना आसानी से वो भी अपना हाथ अंदर नहीं डालेंगे। राइट, म्यांमार के अंदर हाथ डाल के इनके अंदरूनी विषयों में शामिल होना का खतरा अलग किस्म का है, क्योंकि वहां का प्रॉब्लम्स अगर आप अपनाओगे तो आपका इंस्टेबिलिटी और बढ़ जाएगा। उसी तरीके से अगर चाइना ने ज्यादा अपना उंगली दिया इसके अंदर, तो उनको भी लेने के देने पड़ेंगे। इसीलिए सब उस इलाके के सब, इंक्लूडिंग एशियन, म्यांमार को अलग छोड़ देते हैं कि भाई आप जो भी करना है आप अंदरूनी तरीके से करो, कोई इंटरफियर नहीं करता। ये एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है जो म्यांमार के साथ अगर हम डील कर रहे हैं तो। राइट, आई वुड लाइक यू टू